Unfortunately, we're going to have to deviate from our scheduled agenda just a little bit this evening. At this time, we need to ask for a motion to enter into an executive session. And again, this would be for the purposes of discussing a matter that, if disclosed, would imperil public safety. We have had a situation occur this afternoon that the legislature needs to be apprised of immediately. We have some representatives here to discuss that with the legislature. I'd like to ask that Chuck Miller, our Superintendent of Buildings and Grounds, remain, Sheriff Hollins, Under Sheriff Rigg, Annette Barber, our Director of Personnel, and we have a couple of state representatives with us as well, if they could remain. For the rest of our assembled audience, if you could please gather in the hallway, we will reconvene shortly.
They're a big question.
I was sort of odd. I did. Really? Yeah, we cheated. Yeah.
I liked that it wasn't dry.
Good.
You add extra sauce in that way?
Nope. Good. Check your chart. Aaron, you any more of those? Yeah, sure.
Give you all the points. You just never got to it. We'll definitely get that. And why we let this.
Yeah.
Not the end of the world.
No.
We still have that to go through.
Wow.
Aaron?
Yes. Two. Check. Check. Just coming in.
How you doing, buddy?
Thanks, how are you?
Yeah, well, that's what I was saying.
Can't hear you.
Check. 1, 2.
Can't hear you.
It's like a major flood. Well, worse because the flood usually is the bottom and the top doesn't get affected. This is all of it, from the top to the bottom. That's true.
All right, we're going to go ahead and get started again. Before we start the official meeting, obviously, we've been in executive session for almost an hour. A lot of times people wonder what happens in those executive sessions. The sheriff's going to make a release right now, what just occurred, what is occurring, and then he'll release that publicly, obviously, to the media outlets.
Okay, so, for anybody who doesn't know me, my name is Mark Helm, I'm the sheriff here, and this is Under Sheriff Bud Rigg. And basically what we had this morning is we woke up to calls for all the rain that everybody was getting took its toll on our roof in the jail. We have numerous spots where the water just come flooding through, to the point where it's not something that we feel is safe enough to keep all the inmates in there right now. So during the course of this afternoon, we've been going through steps to remove everybody to area agencies around us to make sure they're out of any sort of harm's way, and make sure they're you know, make sure that they're okay. And right now, we're looking to see what we have to do to make our facility back to a runnable facility. The water was to the extent that we had, our dorm area had a couple, 2 to 3 inches of water on the floor. We had probably upwards of 20 totes, the big, nice plastic ones you get from the store, that you store clothes and stuff like that in, were against the walls, and they were filling with inmates that were good enough to help us, that were dumping them, just like you would at your house if you had water coming through a hole in your roof. And it was basically in the beginning, it was all I could do to keep up with it. So with that said, without going into a lot of detail, in the nutshell, that's what our concern is. Obviously, when we have to remove people from our facility, it's a big deal. It went very smoothly. You know, everybody cooperated very well with us. This is the first that we put out with it, but I know I've been getting calls from the media, so I know people are aware of what's been going on, so we want to make sure you knew it. But obviously, our biggest concern was to make sure that the legislature was fully aware of what the situation was, so that we could start moving forward to see what we need to do from here. So, I don't know if you say anything more specific, or?
Yeah, 2 things, it doesn't affect any of the safety in the community. Our processing area, the rest piece, all that stuff is still in full operations. So rest will be made, we'll be able to process. Once they're processed, we'll ship to other facilities. The other thing is, you know, everybody that's in there is a son or daughter of somebody. So we're gonna still man the control center, so any family that calls in, they get notified of the number of the agency that's housing their loved one. If you put it in, 756-4275, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, we're doing that. So nobody gets, you know, out of touch with their families.
Thanks, Sheriff. We'd also like to thank the state for coming down from Albany as well to assist and help us make the decision we did. So, thank you. Thanks, Sheriff.
All right, with that, we'll return to our regularly scheduled agenda for this evening. We do have 5 public hearings scheduled. We will start with the public hearing for local law A of 2019. Please take notice that a public hearing will be held before the Cortland County Legislature on January 24th, 2019 at approximately 6 p.m. or thereafter here in the legislative chambers of the Cortland County Office Building, 60 Central Ave, to consider proposed local law A of 2019, a local law setting the salary of Cortland County election commissioners. Please be advised that at the aforementioned time and place, any and all persons wishing to be heard on this matter will be afforded an opportunity to speak by order of the Cortland County Legislature, and that is from my office, this notice running on January the 15th. At this time, the board will take any comment regarding local law A of 2019. Again, anyone wishing to address the legislature regarding local law A of 2019, setting the salary for the Cortland County election commissioners. Last call, anyone wishing to speak on local law A of 2019, a law setting the salary of the Cortland County election commissioners. Seeing no one, we will declare this public hearing closed. We move now to the public hearing for local law B. Please take notice that a public hearing will be held before the legislature on January 24, 2019 at approximately 6 p.m. in the legislative chambers of the County Office Building, 60 Central Ave, to consider local law B of 2019, a local law to increase salary of officers elected or appointed for a fixed term during the term of office. Please be advised that at the aforementioned time and place, any and all persons wishing to be heard on this matter are afforded an opportunity to speak by order of the Cortland County Legislature. Again, this notice running on January the 15th. Anyone wishing to address the board regarding local law B of 2019? Again, anyone wishing to address the board regarding local law B of 2019, a local law to increase the salary of officers elected or appointed for a fixed term during the term of office? Seeing no one, we will declare this public hearing closed. We move now to the public hearing for local law C of 2019, a local law modifying the term of office for the Cortland County legislators from 2 years to 4 years. Again, take notice that a public hearing will be held before this legislature on January 24th of 2019 at approximately 6 p.m. in the legislative chambers of the County Office Building, 60 Central Ave, considering the local law C of 2019, modifying the term of office for Cortland County legislators from 2 to 4 years. Please be advised that anyone is afforded the opportunity to speak to the legislature on this matter. We open the floor now. Anyone wishing to address the board on local law C of 2019? Again, anyone wishing to address the board this evening on local law C of 2019, modifying the term of office for Cortland County legislators? Seeing no one, we will declare this public hearing closed. We move to local law D of 2019, a local law setting the salary for county legislators. Take notice that a public hearing will be held before the legislature on January 24, 2019, at approximately 6 p.m. in the legislative chambers of the County Office Building, 60 Central Ave, considering proposed local law D of 2019, the local law setting the salary of Cortland County legislators. Is there anyone wishing to address the board regarding local law D of 2019, setting the salary for Cortland County legislators? Once again, anyone wishing to address the board on local law D? And finally, last call, anyone wishing to address the board on local law D of 2019, setting the salary of the Cortland County legislators? Seeing no one, we will declare this public hearing closed. Our final public hearing for the evening, local law E of 2019, repealing local law number 3 of 2018, a local law overriding the tax levy limit for fiscal year 2019. Again, please take notice that a public hearing will be held before the Cortland County Legislature on January 24, 2019, at approximately 6 p.m. in the legislative chambers of the County Office Building, 60 Central Ave, considering proposed local law E of 2019, which will repeal local law 3 of 2018, a local law overriding the tax levy limit for fiscal year 2019. Anyone wishing to address the board this evening on local law E of 2019? Again, anyone wishing to address the board regarding local law E of 2019? And last call, anyone wishing to address the board on local law E of 2019, repealing local law 3 of 2018? Seeing no one, we will declare this public hearing closed. Move on now to the salute to the flag. Please rise if you're able to do so.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Borowski. Here. Mr. Bentley is excused. Mr. Boyden.
here.
Ms. Coombs is excused. Mr. Stock.
Here.
And we welcome you, Mr. Stock. Thank you. Mr. Harbin.
Present.
Mr. Harton is excused. Mr. Hyder.
Here.
Ms. Homer is excused. Ms. Jones.
Here.
Mr. Newell.
Here.
Mr. Poley. Here. Ms. Preston.
Here.
Ms. Price.
Here.
Mr. Van Dee.
Here.
Mr. Wagner.
I am here.
And Mr. Witt. We move now to the approval of the minutes. May I have a motion for the minutes of December 20, 2018?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
We move on to proclamations and recognitions. I do have one proclamation for you this evening. As most of you may know, Ms. DeSenza has resigned earlier this month. Of course, replacing her, Mr. Stock. We want to take this opportunity to recognize Mary Ann DeSenza for her service to Cortland County. Whereas Mary Ann DeSenza faithfully served Cortland County as its Commissioner of Social Services from 1981 to 1991, and whereas subsequent to that period, Ms. DeSenza chose to run for the position of County Legislature, winning the seat in District Number 6. Whereas over the 5-year period as legislator, Ms. DeSenza participated and provided substantial input to the many committees and advisory boards that she served on. And whereas Ms. DeSenza took on a leadership role as a legislator, acting in the capacity of Chair of the Health and Human Services Committee, Vice Chair of the Budget and Finance Committee, and acting as Minority Leader. And whereas staff and colleagues welcomed Ms. DeSenza's insight, compassionate, fair-minded outlook with regard to the needs of department heads, recognizing her experience, provided a much-needed point of view. And whereas Ms. DeSenza's work and dedication has been one of mutual respect for all parties involved in the many decisions to be made by the Cortland County Legislature, now therefore be it resolved that I, Kevin Whitney, on behalf of the Cortland County Legislature and county residents, hereby express our utmost appreciation to Mary Ann DeSenza for the years of selfless, dedicated service to Cortland County and her constituency, and wish her well in her future endeavors. now to privilege of the floor. I do have some individuals signed up this evening. Our first speaker under privilege of the floor is Barbara Barton of Cortland regarding the mobility management resolution. Ms. Barton. We remind our speakers this evening that we allow you 3 minutes. If you would respect that, we would appreciate it. Ms. Barton.
Good evening, members of the legislature. My name is Barbara Barton. I have been a resident of Cortland for the past 7 years, and I am the chair of the board of the Seven Valleys Health Coalition. There are 2 items of business in front of you tonight that pertain to Seven Valleys. I want to tell you briefly about our organization and the impact your vote will have upon it. Seven Valleys Health Coalition is a private, nonprofit, community-based organization employing 6 full-time staff on a budget of about $500,000 annually. Our mission is basically to improve the health and well-being of the Cortland community. We are funded through grants and contracts. Seven Valleys receives no operating assistance directly from Cortland County's general fund. However, through a variety of grant funds we have received over the past 20 years, we have provided a great deal of assistance and resources to you and our community. In addition to the mobility management program, I would like to highlight some of those issues for you now, some of those contributions. Seven Valleys Health Coalition led Cortland's community assessment team, including putting on the annual Cortland Counts Community Forum held just last week and conducting the Cortland Counts Community Assessment process, for which our county has received statewide recognition. We also generate the annual Cortland Counts report cards used by the health department as part of its mandate to mandated Cortland health assessment and community health improvement plan processes. This is done at no cost to the county. We conduct oral health education in the schools through our Mighty Molar program and lead additional oral health efforts throughout the community, again, at no cost to the county. We partner with the health department's chronic disease prevention committee, providing a lengthy list of services identified in the community health improvement plan. We work with and provide community programming funding to the County Breastfeeding Partnership. We underwrite the 211 information and referral system. We coordinate the annual EDPRT crisis intervention training for local law enforcement and other first responders. We visit Albany and Washington, D.C. to advocate for rural health and transportation funding. We provide the chronic disease self-management program and the diabetes prevention program for this community. We are leading efforts to improve access to healthy foods. We co-chair the Cortland County Traffic Safety Board's bike subcommittee and have worked to bring Line Bike to the county. We brought the New York State Association for Rural Health Administration office to Cortland, along with their 3-day annual conference held in September 2018 at Greek Peak. We truly don't have enough time here tonight for me to tell you everything that we did for the 2016 Healthy Cortland IRT military medical event, but if you ask anyone who was a part of it, including your clerk, Eric Mulvihill, they will tell you that Seven Valleys carried heaviest load of work, including having to close our offices for the full 10 days so that our full staff could manage the events, boots on the ground. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Barton. Our next speaker this evening is Jackie Leaf of Preble regarding agenda items 17 and 18.
Good evening, members of the legislature. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak. My name is Jackie Leaf. I've been the executive director of Seven Valleys Health Coalition since 2001. First, in addition to thanking you, I want to thank all the people who came to support me tonight. I had a nice crowd with me, including several of my board members. I want to take my time to speak about the mobility management program. This was developed and funded by the federal government to improve transportation options for seniors, people with disabilities, and low-wage workers. Seven Valleys started the county's mobility management program in 2009 when we were the only agency willing to lead the efforts to address the transportation issues facing our county's vulnerable populations. I want to point out that Seven Valleys does not now and never has had the responsibility or the authority to provide or control the operations of the public bus service for Cortland County. We wrote the work plan and the budget for mobility management in the 2017-2018 FTA 5311 grant, submitting a 24-month work plan and budget that was approved by the county before you submitted it to New York State DOT. The county was notified in June 2018 that our application was approved for the full amount we requested for mobility management. Now the county is trying to keep these funds rather than reimburse us and allow us to fulfill the remainder of this 2-year grant cycle of funding. We have been operating in good faith since our previous grant funds were exhausted in February 2018, and once we heard the awards were announced in June 2018, we figured we were good to go. This lag in funding is consistent. It happens all the time. The 2015-2016 grant wasn't executed until December 2016, so we're right on target with the other previous grant cycles. The APE's committee's vote to end this relationship and to take this grant funding, for which we have worked so hard for 10 years to bring to this county, is a slap in the face to an organization that is dedicated to the health and well-being of this community. To add insult to injury, the APE committee also voted to end our bus advertising management contract for no other reason than, if you're not doing one, you don't need the other. The funding from New York State for this is about $140,000 annually, which is almost 30% of our budget. And we have to guarantee the 10% match from the community, which is $36,000, and we make sure that is there. I project that Seven Valleys' portion of the 2019 bus advertising revenue would be about another $10,000. So if you think about the value this county has received, if you listen to what Barbara said, do you really believe it's cost effective for you in the long run to take away a grant, which you originally solicited us to apply for 10 years ago, for which both this body and New York State has ever only provided us with positive feedback for our performance, knowing how much it could hurt not just our organization, but the entire community we are dedicated to serving? Now, I want you to know, if the county is truly concerned that the New York State Department of Transportation cannot be used for previous expenses, you could be in dire fiscal trouble because you already have contracted with First Transit. You've been paying them their operating expenses, which has to be at least $400,000 since the beginning of the contract grant year, which would have been January 2017. So if you can't be retroactively reimbursed, you're out all the money you've already paid First Transit. So that argument does not carry any weight as far as I can tell you. And I have talked to New York State, and I have talked to the New York State Comptroller's Office. The lapse time is normal. If there are issues with the performance of our organization, you need to come to the table and talk to us. Not just all of a sudden at a meeting tell me that it's done. That is not the way to operate business. That's not the way to have a relationship with businesses in your community and the nonprofits that are working so hard to serve the people that you're here to represent.
Thank you, Ms. Lee.
Our next speaker, Ms. Ann Hodgkin of Cortland Mill, regarding agenda items 17 and 18.
Thank you to the legislature for allowing me to speak. I would just say that my previous experience before coming to Seven Valleys Health Coalition was that I was a grant writer and planner at Toma Development Consultants for almost 30 years. I've served on the Cortland County Planning Department for approximately 18 years and have been the chair for approximately 9. 3 years ago, I came to be the mobility manager at Seven Valleys Health Coalition, and I retired at the end of 2018. So I'm here today because who knows what mobility management is. I certainly didn't know what it was when I first got hired for the job. On a state level, we advocate to persons such as Finch, Lifton, and Seward to make sure that transit money stay at least equal to or greater than what the state proposes in its budget every year. At a regional level, we work on such projects as mapping where major employers are, major medical facilities are. If you now look on your phones, you can see that when you go to Google and you map your directions to where you want to go, there are now options for public transportation. So we're part of that regional group to make sure that we adequately map where things are, and that's called a Move Together New York, which does do other things. I'm obviously making this short to the point because I have 3 minutes. We also have one of the major successes we've had is putting in a successful grant to, with 4 other counties to provide Medicaid rides to persons who are Medicaid eligible where Medicaid does not provide the rides for them. And that's a nice chunk of change that goes specifically to Cortland County for that effort. So as far as locally goes, mobility is defined on how you move. So it's not just by Cortland Transit, it's also how you walk, how you bike. And certainly transit does take up a lot of the time of the mobility manager. But we do other things such as Bike Walk Week and a Car-Free Challenge, which were under the auspices of the mobility manager. Every day posting on social media about interesting transportation things, both on a local, state, even a national level, to perhaps spark our local communities on things that we could try here. We convene special meetings, such as a discussion about the ever-prickly Greyhound bus station being, or the station being right here in front of the county office building. Other things that we've accomplished are putting maps in the shelters, including the bus frames to hold them. We've worked with Dan at County Planning. Obviously, I've had a long-time relationship with Dan, and we've worked well together for GPS units in the buses, which unfortunately started to deteriorate. And there's a movement afoot to put hardwired GPS devices in all the buses, which are very, very helpful to the public when you're standing out in the rain and you can look at where your bus is in real time. We also have worked color code the buses, which has not happened yet, so that the red line on a bus matches the red line on the maps. This is especially important for persons with disabilities and also for persons where English is not necessarily their first language. We initiated a Zim ride, which has not come to fruition yet because we haven't gotten there, which would be a ride-sharing platform. In upstate areas, you often have to have a patchwork of transportation options because it's not like living in downstate where a subway is coming every 5 seconds to take care of your transportation needs. So we wind up, because of money and other geographic considerations, kind of piecemealing things together. We have a website to this effect called Way to Go Cortland, where you can look at all the different options from taxis to regional buses, local buses, you name it, it's on that website, which was recently redone. We did the bus ad program. It's a fairly new program. It was about 2 years that it's taken. At first it went very slow, and as of late it's kind of picked up speed where we have more businesses trying to put ads on the bus. We did a bus driver reward program because they're often the unspoken heroes of transportation, where the passengers voted for something nice that the bus driver did for them that day, and we gave them a certificate. In order to groom the next riders of the future, we gave the youth a $10 bus pass for the summertime to encourage them to get used to using the bus. The same thing for seniors. They're often thinking, I'm going to drive my car till I'm 95 years old, which is not really the truth. And I'd say, you don't have to give up your car, but at least come and try out the bus. We took a bus ride together, 3 minutes. Okay, yep. So I'd just like to say, working for Jackie Leaf, she's a rock star. Anytime there's something to be done, she picks it up. She was the one to take the mobility management. She did 211, NISAR. She's going to undertake the farmers market. She did the free medical event, and I just think that it's a shame that we're where we are today. Thank you.
Thank you. Our final speaker under privilege of the floor, Ms. Jan Dempsey of Cortland, regarding agenda items 17 and 18.
Thank you for this opportunity to address the agenda items 17 and 18. My name is Jan Dempsey. I was the Mobility Management Coordinator before Ann at Seven Valleys from 2010 until my retirement in 2015. I am not sure I understand the rationale for rescinding the contract with Seven Valleys Health Coalition for Mobility Management other than a wish to kill the program, and without a full-time mobility manager, that is exactly what will happen. Grants need to be written and administered, programs need to be created and carried out, Partnerships need to be forged, quarterly reports showing what you have accomplished need to be submitted, and then you get approved for reimbursement. And the State Department of Transportation has always made it clear that an organization or a county needs to upfront the money for program expenses because it takes a very long time to get reimbursed. I just don't see the county planning department able to do that with their current staff and constraints. But let's keep in mind that we're not just talking about a fight over grant dollars. We're talking about real people, not numbers, who will be impacted by this decision. And I'd like to share one story, and there are many more, but one story about a woman who stopped me in Tots this past December. And I knew her from my time as the mobility manager, and she was in tears. And she has a severe speech impediment, and it's very difficult to understand. She communicates by writing on a pad. So it took us 30 minutes, but she related to me her recent experience with being bullied and threatened by one of the First Transit bus drivers. Well, I reassured her that I would share the information with Ann, who was the mobility manager at that time, and I immediately did that when I got home. Many people need the mobility manager as their voice. Who is going to advocate for the most vulnerable members of our community? This is what we did all the time at Seven Valleys Health Coalition. Don't take that away from them. And as Ann mentioned, it's not just about bus service. We also worked on many initiatives to improve alternative modes of transportation, carpooling, walking, and biking, which can not only improve one's individual health, but the health of the community. Who doesn't want to see fewer cars in our parking lots and on our downtown streets? Who would not be pleased to meet a young professional couple that I recently met who moved here from Long Island? Even though he has a job in Binghamton, they decided to live in Cortland because they like its feel. They live in the new downtown living space at Crescent Commons and are becoming active in the community. These are the people we want to attract to our community. Transportation is multifaceted, as you know, and it's a very complex issue. But this county needs a full-time mobility manager dedicated to the task. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dempsey. That is our last speaker signed up this evening. Is there anyone else wishing to address the board on any of the items on our agenda this evening under privilege of the floor? Seeing no one, we will move on to our regular agenda. Under presentation of petitions, communications, and notice, I do have one item for you this evening, the Cortland County Clerk Report on corner records received in 2018. May I have a motion to receive and file?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Under receive and file, I have the minority leader designation form. Motion to receive and file.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Congratulations, Ms. Bryce.
Congratulations.
We continue on to reports of standing, special, and ad hoc committees. We'll start first with our standing committees. Are there any chairs of standing committees wishing to report out anything to the board this evening? Mrs. Price.
On the APE committee, we have a subcommittee reviewing the county planning board bylaws that haven't been updated in years. We hope to have a final report to this body in March, while bringing it to the committee next month and then refining it. So that's the hot news from APE.
Mr. Brilski.
Just a couple quick things from the Judiciary and Public Safety Committee. Those that are following know that there are two sort of parallel efforts going on to produce some numbers with regard to the jail from both CRS and Vera. The issue of a data request from those entities was received last week Thursday, or last week Friday, I'm sorry. And as of today, a response was already provided in part on some of that data. The entities are talking about clarifying the remainder of the request, but it would appear that the responses from the citizens that worked on the data will be very quick in response to the the questions from Vera and CRS, which will mean that Vera is hoping that if that goes well, they should be conducting the balance of the additional meetings that they want to have with department heads in late February and early March. But the work will probably not be completed by the end of March, and so we've identified that there is a contract that will need to be extended for a period of time in order to allow Vera to finish that work. In addition to that, one other item I would just mention is that it was raised in committee that it would be of interest to the legislature to hear on certain topics, and the folks from Vera are going to reach out to representatives of Erie County that started an opioid addiction court, and we'll hope to have more information on that in the future.
Thank you, Mr. Borowski. Anyone else? Mr. Boyd?
Yeah, on the Solid Waste Committee, we received our action report from Mr. Zecca. Hopefully, we'll be discussing that at our next meeting in February to talk over some of these options, perhaps. I think that's about it for right now.
Thank you, Mr. Boyd. Anything from our ad hoc committees? Ms. Price, CCTVS?
Yes, CCTVS will be Tuesday, February 12th at 6 o'clock. We have two topics that evening: handling FOIL requests presented by our own Eric Mulvihill, and an overview of parliamentary procedures presented by Ann Homer. Additionally, we have another meeting on workers' comp on Monday, February 4th at 6 o'clock, and this is to explain the charges and the changes in charges due to the withdrawal of the Village of Homer from the plan. So you're all welcome to attend.
Ms. Price, I'm always loath to correct you, but it's February 6th.
February 6th, okay. Thank you. I would have done it real early, wouldn't I?
I always hate to correct you. Mr. Harvey?
Yeah, a quick report from the Citizens Advisory Board for the County Administrator Search. We've met twice in January, January 15th and again this evening. I appreciate the members from this panel who have agreed to be part of the board. In our first meeting, we discussed inviting additional members of the community to join our board, and I'm pleased to announce that the following individuals have agreed to join our search committee: Gary Van Gorder from the Cortland IDA, Megan Lawton from the Cortland Tourism and Convention Bureau, Bob Haight from the Cortland Chamber of Commerce, Brian Tobin, Mayor of the City of Cortland, Eric Bitterbaum, the President of SUNY Cortland, Rob Pecora from Cortland County Government, and we have a couple of additional invitations that are out in the community, and hope to have those noted in the next meeting, which we will be having in a couple of weeks. In February, we've already got 2 meetings scheduled. At that meeting, we've also discussed our recruiting drive. The new job is posted and up and running. I appreciate the work of Annette Barber and the Personnel Department getting that up and running. And we're actively moving forward on that recruiting drive, and we'll start looking at applications in our meetings in February. Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to articles postponed to day certain. I don't have any for you this evening. No unfinished business. We move on to new business. At the request of the chairman, we are going to address items 45 and 46 first. These are our 2 proposed micro enterprise grant awards. We do have Rich Toma with us this evening. If folks have any questions, also Mr. Meyer and the Budget and Finance Committee did vet these applications, so if you have any specific questions there. So if we could, we have a motion on agenda item number 45, please.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Agenda item number 46 on motion of Mr. Wagner. Endorse Cortland County Microenterprise Program Review Committee recommendation to award the sum of $21,500 for Rincon Hispano Budget Finance.
Move it.
Second.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you. We'll return to agenda item number 1 under resolutions from the chair. Motion of Chairman Whitney, appoint members Central New York Regional Planning and Development Board.
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Price.
I would like to note that Jim Murphy is retiring from the board. He's been on there a number of years, has chaired the Central New York Regional Planning Board, has done an excellent job, and we owe him a big round of thank you because he's been a great volunteer there.
You're here.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Agenda item number 2 on motion of Chair Whitney, appoint members Agricultural and Farmland Protection Board.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Agenda item number 3, items you've heard from the Highway Committee. On motion of Mr. Newell, approve purchase highway truck with snowplow equipment, Highway Department.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Agenda item number 4 on motion of Mr. Newell.
Eric,
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion for consent agenda to consolidate items 4 through 9.
4 through 9. Mr. Newell is proposing to consolidate his resolutions on Highway
I'll second.
Committee. Ms. Jones, seconds that.
Discussion.
This is on consolidating to a consent.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
And on the main motion of items 4 through 9.
All
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Good move, Chris.
We're moving right along.
Okay, we move on to items referred to the board this evening from the Solid Waste Committee. Agenda item number 10, a motion of Mr. Boyd, accept New York State Department of Environment Conservation Municipal Waste Reduction and Recycling Grant, Solid Waste Department.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Yay.
Ms. Jones opposed. Any other opposition? Motion carries. Agenda item number 11, on motion of Mr. Boyden, create recycling coordinator, amend 2019 budget, Highway Department.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Oh, Ms. Price. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I'm just gonna state that I really wanna see results from this position. We noted that we're taking monies from the county administrator, county auditor, and the budget and finance director. These are 3 important positions that have not been filled, and we are taking that money and putting it in for the recycling coordinator. I support the position, but because we're kind of borrowing from Peter to pay Paul, I really want to see results from this.
We will try real hard.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Preston. Anyone else? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Ms. Jones opposed. Anyone else? Motion carries. Agenda item number 12, on motion of Mr. Boyden, authorize the engagement of professional services for flow control legislation review and revision, county attorney.
Second.
Discussion. Mr. Wagner.
Tell me what's going on.
In general or specific to this resolution?
Yes. We've been through this.
Yes, sir, we have.
Can I be promised that it's never visited again?
Mr. Wagner, I wouldn't dare make you any promise.
Well,
The intent here, as we discussed in the Solid Waste Committee, is to address some of the deficiencies that exist in our current flow control legislation,
well,
and quite frankly, to address the continuing losses in our recycling operation.
I'm with Kelly, I'd like to see some results on this.
Understood, sir.
We all want
Mr.
results.
Randy.
Mr. Wagner, hopefully this is it. This should clean it up. You know the problems that have been going on, so hopefully this does clean it up.
Good. I'm not getting any younger.
None of us.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Yay.
We're gonna roll call.
Okay, Mr. Borilski.
Yes.
Mr. Bentley is excused. Mr. Boyden.
Yes.
Ms. Coombs is excused. Mr. Stock.
Yes.
Mr. Harvin.
Yes.
Mr. Harvin's excused. Mr. Hyder.
No.
Ms. Homer's excused. Ms. Jones.
No.
Mr. Newell.
Yes.
Mr. Polly?
No.
Ms. Preston?
Yes.
Ms. Price?
Yes.
Mr. Van Dee?
Yes.
Mr. Wagner?
Yes.
And Mr. Whitney?
Yes.
Motion passes with a weighted vote of 28,802. Moving on to items referred to the board this evening from the Health and Human Services Committee. Agenda item number 13, on motion of Mr. Van Dee, create one temporary caseworker position, social services.
Second.
Discussion.
How is this monitored? Is that human resources that monitors this, or the department head itself?
The department head.
Ms. Monroe's here if you have a specific question on that.
Yeah. The question is, who monitors this?
Who monitors the duration of the position?
Well, when the position ends, because this is temporary full-time. So when you take that person on, the days start ticking away, you've got 6 months. Is that correct?
Correct. Right.
So at that time you
track that in my office. We do page sheets for the duration of the time. And we work with the personnel office, of course, in that process.
So who cuts them loose?
They're hired knowing the terms of employment.
They know their termination date.
That's right.
Okay.
Yep. They know there are no benefits. They understand that it's a temporary job and what that entails.
Okay. Thank you.
Ms. Price?
Would you like to explain why you need this position? I do support it, but I think it's good that people know.
Real briefly, the caseworker position is an extremely difficult job, and we're experiencing turnover, lags in training, some upcoming maternity leaves, and an incredibly high volume of reports. So it's really important, because of the 3 to 4 month minimum training time, to even be authorized to take child protective reports. It's imperative that we keep the wheel turning, bringing people in to start that training as we experience turnover.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Agenda item number 14, on motion of Mr. Van Dee, authorize agreement to accept funds, Health Department Environmental Health Rabies Program.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Move to items referred to the board this evening from the Agriculture Planning and Environment Committee. Agenda item number 15, on motion of Ms. Price, appointment to Cortland County Planning Board.
Move it.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Congratulations, Mr. Hart.
Thank you, Mr. Hart.
Speak.
You're a great sir.
Might be sorry.
I see by his address, he lives in the county.
Agenda item number 16, on motion of Ms. Price, acknowledge transition of mobility management services from Seven Valleys Health Coalition to Portland County Planning Department, County Planning Department.
Second.
Discussion. Mr. Herbert?
I'd like to read, if I could, a few words from our colleague, Mr. Bentley, who was unable to attend this evening. Just very quickly, I'll just paraphrase a couple of his points. We as a group have been remiss in not appreciating the fact that in the last 10 years of mobility management work in Cortland has resulted from a grant application written by the Seven Valleys Health Coalition. At the original planning meeting about this, no one seemed motivated to do what it would take to make this happen for Cortland. There was state support for this type of program, but it would not come to Cortland unless someone volunteered to do the work of preparing the grant application. In the can-do spirit typical of the staff at Seven Valleys Health Coalition, your organization stepped up, wrote a successful application, and wrote the book on mobility management for Cortland County. I was perplexed to see this plan to take Seven Valleys Health Coalition out of the mix, for without them, we would not have the mobility management program. There's a lot more to do than we realize. Our planning department cannot do all they have to do now for the county. And I agree with Mr. Bentley's sentiment and other sentiments I've received from the community, and I will be voting against this resolution.
Bruce?
In committee, I voted to move this resolution to the floor. I've continued to investigate and ask questions about this resolution, and while I will say at this point in time, not all of those questions have been resolved. One of the big issues has been uncertainty with regard to grant reimbursement. It is my understanding that, as we sit here, that we are expecting to actually see the funds that has been the source of that particular issue. And it is my hope that I might ask the chair of the committee to pull this resolution for 1 month. Give us time to see whether or not those funds can be received, and to sit down and with Seven Valley and have a serious discussion about the issues that have brought us to this point in time. Because I do believe that there has been a lot of discussion that has demonstrated that Seven Valley has contributed greatly to the county, and I think we need to have that. I would like to have that dialogue.
Any other discussion? Mr. Harvey?
Just one other point, I did have a call today with Kent Sporus, the director at the state New York Public Transportation Department. We talked through a number of things with regards to mobility management and the 5311 grant monies. And he informed me that the contract that we've all been waiting for from the state for these 2017-2018 funds are anticipated to be sent either tomorrow or early next week. So we are very close to seeing these contracts finally coming out from the state and moving forward with the money. So this is not another, we're going to be waiting another year or more, according to the director, where they've finally gotten through the backlog and are ready to send out their contract.
Any other discussion? So, Mr. Boyd?
I'd just like to say, I concur with Mr. Borowski. I don't agree with him too often sometimes, but I do agree with him on that one. Let's sit down and talk this over with him.
So, or go to Ms. Price.
Is there any more discussion before I speak?
Well, I think I
Oh,
was
Mr. Scott.
I would also like to agree with Michael and consider rescinding this and going through the next month until we get more information of the money's due does arrive.
So,
Is there anybody else that wants to speak before I do?
I would like to see it come to a vote and not make Seven Valleys have to worry about what's going on, let them know what's going on.
I'd like to see it come to a vote tonight also.
I think I agree with Mrs. Jones. I'd like to see it come to a vote. Just to get it clear.
But let them know, not worry about it.
Right.
Let them know.
If there's time to figure it out.
So I guess
It's
one
my
thing I've
turn.
learned, so I've learned a few things, you learn something all the time. So one thing I've learned about being chairman is in the rules of order, the chairman gets to speak last. I don't know why that is, but I do know why that is now, as I've gotten out of this position. As chairman, you get put in positions where you have to work with various legislators that have concerns. And as a chairman, you have to work with those legislators to bring concerns forward to be addressed. So I've seen my name get pretty well lambasted in some emails, and I've seen some letters where I've had some pretty scathing things said about me. And I understand that, but I guess that helps to be the chairman to kind of have an opportunity to address how we got here and how I seem to be the focal point of the program. I took over as chairman, I don't know, September, October, somewhere in there. Bad advice at this point, Eric Mulvihill told me I should go to a Transportation Advisory Committee meeting because Senator Seward was going to be there. There's problems with the transit system, the senator's concerned, probably in your best interest to be there. So I showed up at the meeting. When I was at the meeting, the Go-Getters group apparently are the ones that notified the senator of their concern. Wasn't familiar with that group. Wasn't even familiar with the Transportation Advisory Committee, to be quite frank. In that, there was a lot of concerns relayed. And Ms. Hatchett presented me a lot of concerns regarding First Transit and the unreliability of transit routes, people being picked up, dropped off, all sorts of stuff that I've learned. Stuff I didn't even really want to get involved in, but by taking this position, I've had to get involved. So the other thing, I haven't just lightly waded into this, and anybody that knows me, that I've been a legislator for whatever, 8 years now we're starting, I don't do anything by myself, never. So every single meeting I've been in, I've had Ms. Price and Mr. Newell there for the most part. But I've had one or the other, or both, the whole time, because they are the program chairs overseeing this program. And I should point out, this isn't anything these are all the files that I gathered, because they said, Cortland County, you need to take a look into this matter. This is a serious problem. So I did that. I asked for all First Transit's financials. I asked for all Seven Valley's financials. I didn't just haphazardly kind of come into this. I highlighted, I made notes, I've worked through this. A lot of good points have been raised to me about this. The one thing I didn't know until Ms. Leaf sent the communications to the legislature this week, which I appreciate, I had provided all the documentation that was sent. I do all that on every matter I handle. The one document I never saw was the one addressed to Mr. Sudbrink, who was the chairman at the time, that we keep referencing in June. There's an award letter that says we were awarded money. I've been of that basis. The whole time, I listened to it tonight, we've been awarded money. That's not what this letter says. It says New York State accepted the grant application, they're in favor of the grant application, and they forwarded it on to the federal government. Now, I will concede, probably, that's how the process has always gone, and every time that goes to the federal government, it comes back to the state, and it's approved. But this does not say, Cortland County, you got $250,000. Because I was under that same impression until I got this letter this week. So I just want to point out a couple things in terms of that. In terms of the impact of the riders, I'm right there with you. I almost gave my personal cell phone out to the TC3 students, and while we've tried to rectify that, I've read numerous email after email, these students being stranded, to the point even I thought I'd get my number. Then I didn't know how I would go get them. I had a very nice conversation with Mr. Yeaman today, who submitted a letter. We'll get it out. It just came tonight. He talked to me about submitting a letter. We had a nice conversation about the transit system. The bottom line is, when everyone keeps saying you're ending service, again, I walked into this. So you mentioned last January, February. I have an email that says there's no more money. You're operating at your own risk, which I get. You've all said that's kind of how you're used to operate. So this is how we got to tonight. So in November, not Kevin Whitney, the Ag and Planning Committee instructed me to write a letter to Seven Valley saying, cease and desist at this point. We don't have a contract, we have zero money. Stop. We got a subsequent letter that said, we're gonna keep working. So this was the last resolution that the board thought, in order to make it clear, there's no contract. Everything we do in this county, when it comes to grant funding or anything, when the money runs out, the program ends and the positions are eliminated. That's the stance the legislature's taken. I've never seen them change it. They may. But I'm just confused when the county says no, stop, what allows an agency to say, we're gonna keep working? If a department head did that to us, we would flip out. So it wasn't anything more than, we don't have a contract, and you're right, with First Transit, I agree with you 100%. That is another issue that we do need to look into. We agree with you, we are upfronting a lot of money. We have learned that as a result of all this. That is a problem. We agree with you wholeheartedly. That could be another big issue, because what happens if we don't fund that? So I just want to make it clear. No contract, absolutely no money. I'm hoping what Mr. Harbin said is correct, but I just want to be clear, that award letter did not say, Cortland County, you're getting $250,000. Never said that. So if there is one that says that, I'm open to it. That's not what this says, and that's what everybody has been made to believe. And I find that discouraging. So, with that, Ms. Price.
After listening to the people tonight and to my colleagues, I would like to have a recess for an opportunity to speak with the chair and the majority leader on how to proceed.
May I have a motion for a 10-minute recess?
Yes.
I'll make a motion.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. We stand in recess for 10 minutes.
Yes, he's here. She's on.
got any building materials, Chad, roofing materials that filters best?
For that, there is a product I'm thinking that is.
I'm okay with it either way.
Well, we can still do it, still work on it.
Add analogy tonight for this place. Try not to use that one.
Well, that was recognized as an SB.
All right, we're going to reconvene.
Here we go.
Does anybody want to compare sheets?
All right, we are back in session at 8:04 PM.
Ms. Price.
We have all members present.
Ms. Price.
After conferring with some people, I believe it's in the best interest of everyone if we settle this tonight. There's no sense in having the Southern Valley Health Coalition folks endure another month of this. I think we should put it to bed tonight. So I will not be pulling the resolution.
All in favor?
Aye.
Wait, you need to raise prices? Time out.
Time out.
We're voting. So let's start over again. Not what Ms. Price said. We do a roll call.
Okay, so let's I'll read the motion. Again, we're at agenda item number 16, on motion of Ms. Price, seconded by Ms. Preston, I believe. Acknowledge transition of mobility management services from Seven Valleys Health Coalition to Cortland County Planning Department. County Planning Department, this will be a roll call vote. Mr. Brilski.
No.
excused. Mr. Stock?
No.
Mr. Harmon?
No.
Mr. Hart is excused. Mr. Hyder?
No.
Ms. Homer is excused. Ms. Jones?
No.
Mr. Newell?
No.
Mr. Polly?
No.
Help me out. Go ahead, sorry.
Now, this money is shared with the town villages?
No, Snowmobile
No, it
Club.
goes to the Snowmobile Club.
Right. Okay. That's all I have.
I'm sorry. I'll pay better attention.
Okay.
Agenda item number 20, on motion of Mr. Price, amend 2019 budget, 2018-19 Snowmobile Trail Development and Maintenance Grant Planning Department.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Agenda item number 21, item referred out of the Judiciary and Public Safety Committee. On motion of Mr. Borilski, 2018 budget adjustment, increased professional services assigned counsel.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Consolidation.
We have a request to move items 22 through
35?
35 as a consent agenda. Will you make that motion?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
So, Mr. Hyder, Ms. Jones, 22 through 35 as a consent agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
And on those items,
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Very good.
we move to items referred to the board this evening from the Personnel Committee. Agenda item number 36, on motion of Ms. Fairchild Preston, amend 2018 budget, transfer funds, county legislature office.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Agenda item number 37, on motion of Ms. Fairchild Preston, adopt proposed local law A for year 2019, a local law setting the salary of Cortland County election commissioners.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Agenda item number 38, on motion of Ms. Fairchild Preston, adopt proposed local law B of the year 2019, a local law to increase salary of officers elected or appointed for a fixed term during office.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
A local law modifying the term of office for Cortland County legislators from 2 years to 4 years, and of course, this law is subject to mandatory referendum. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Hyde, thank you.
I'd like to make a motion to modify the final whereas clause to read, resolve that this local law shall become effective on January 1st, 2022, upon approval by, and then as it rest stands. The reason I put forward that motion is in order to clarify the fact that the voters will be asked to vote on this in the November election, but it won't take effect until the next election cycle of this body, so as not to confuse the issue of voting on the referendum and either maybe or maybe not having 4-year or 2-year terms there following.
Could I ask the county attorney a question?
I'd say, Mayor, just answer. Go ahead, yes.
I'd ask the county attorney, is that a substantial change to the local law?
My first answer is yes, because it changes the intent.
So we have to,
We would need another public hearing.
Was there a second on the amendment?
Second. Oh, and there's an amendment?
Yes.
No, because we can't do it. I'm sorry, I thought we
So
were
see
voting,
where
I
it's
thought we
going.
were voting on the thing.
So one more time, on Mr. Harmon's amendment to change the effective date, is there a second on that? So the amendment fails for a lack of second.
Okay, any discussion on the existing agenda item? Ms. Jones?
I'd just like to say that I see two sides of this, positives and negatives. I'm very glad it's going to go to the public for their decision.
because I think they should be the ones making the decision. If this wasn't going to the public, I would probably be voting no tonight, but I want the public to make this decision.
And I certainly concur with Ms. Jones's assessment. I think this is important to go to the voters. My concern is that nowhere in this local law and nowhere in this discussion is it clear to the voters when all this takes effect. All in favor? Aye.
Agenda item number 40, on motion to discard child trust and amend County of Cortland Employment Policy Manual Personnel.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
We move to items referred from the Budget and Finance Committee. Agenda item number 41, on motion of Mr. Wagner, authorize contract amendment 2018 budget, occupancy tax audit, Bonadio and Company LLP, Budget and Finance Department.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Agenda item number 42, on motion of Mr. Wagner, abolish, create county auditor manager of audit and financial projects audit.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Agenda item number 43, on motion of Mr. Wagner, adopt local law D of 2019, a local law setting the salary for Cortland County legislators.
I am for this.
Okay. Anything further?
It's just that I've worked with you people and you're not deserving. Actually, no. Got a lot of money has better ideas, and she'll bring forth next month.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Wagner. Agenda number 43 is pulled on motion of the sponsor. We'll move down to agenda item 44, local law E of 19, repeal of local law 3 of 2018, a local law overriding the tax levy limit for fiscal year 2019.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Let's see, we took care of 45 and 46. We're on to agenda item number 47. On motion, Mr. Wagner, 2018 fourth quarter sales tax distribution, county treasurer.
Second.
Discussion? Mr. Wagner?
I do have a question. When will these checks go out?
Tomorrow.
As quickly as possible.
So I do want to note, so that this is just not in passing, that the receipt of the fourth quarter sales tax distribution, that the total sales tax revenue for 2018 was a total of $29,813,667, and that exceeded our budgeted amount for 2018 by close to $2 million. Our budget, the amount we estimated we would be receiving, that is the county, was 27,834,000, which means that the county's 53.5% of the excess amounts to over $1 million, $1,059,000 to be exact. And so I made some suggestions before that we ought to do a better job of estimating our sales tax revenue. We used the same figure for 2019 that we used for 2018. The receipts for 2018 are almost $2 million more. I think we ought to be looking at trying to do a better job of estimating these revenues for the following year. Thank you.
So not to jump in, I see a lot of hands, but I just like to jump in quick. So I tend to be a little hasty at times, and I've enjoyed a great working relationship with Mr. Wagner. And I enjoy meetings, and he's taken a lot of meetings over his budgetary ideas and measures. However, had we chosen not to go with Mr. Wagner's recommendation or Mr. Kapoor's recommendation, based on just what happened tonight, we would be in a very precarious position. So What the sheriff explained to the public in terms of the situation doesn't even begin to touch on the cost of what is gonna be incurred by this county. We are literally talking about taking the complete roof off the building now that the inmates are gone and fixing it. Not only are we gonna put a new roof, most likely, and this is just being talked about, but there's all the water damage within the walls, the HVAC, the insulation, the electric. The building incurred significant damage, more than it ever has. And thankfully, even though I even nudged Mr. Wagner and Kapora to move it a little bit, had we done that, I think we'd be in a real bad way right now. So thank you for holding your ground and allowing us to have that ability to address this and not incur further burden to the taxpayers. Mr. Van Dam.
And I have to agree, this happens to be a good year. I've been here when it hasn't been a good year, and you come in even or a little less. You're right, with what happened tonight, it can happen at any time.
That's right.
We've been raising taxes next year like you wouldn't believe. So this is a good year.
Mr. Hyder.
I would like to have George underestimate a little more. Thank you, George.
Anything else? Mr. Burleson.
Simply the point that I was trying to make is, there's $1 million more than what we budgeted.
Thank goodness.
That's good.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Mr. Harden, nay.
Correct.
Motion carries. Agenda item 48, motion, Mr. Wagner, reappropriate funds in the 2019 budget, approved contract, one group safety contract, safety office.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
We do have an additional item for you this evening. I would like to ask for a motion to suspend the rules.
I'll do that.
Mr. Burlski?
Yes.
Okay. Second by Boyden. This does require a roll call vote. Mr. Burlski?
Can I ask what we're suspending?
I'm sorry, we have an additional resolution to consider this evening. We have it here on the desk. We're going to pass it out here. Sorry. Get you hold it once.
I'd like to see that resolution first.
Nice try, Eric.
Yeah,
Well, in order to consider it, we do have to suspend it, so.
What's that?
You don't want the towns to have their money?
I'm still not happy with the sales tax distribution agreement from earlier on, and I will vote no on the sales tax distribution. As per my note to the public, till the cows come home. I'll be the only one, that's fine. It's just me.
So it's the motion and the supporting documentation for the motion. And I'm handing out.
I gave it to him.
Oh,
So I'll take this one. Karen, I didn't get the other handouts though. I forgot to bring them. No, I got that.
Just hang on, sister,
You want some
for
help?
me. Did you get, all right, now you have everything.
Everybody get a service proposal? You got the service agreement? That's your.
Yeah.
Everybody get the service agreement from Secretary?
So once again, we have a motion to suspend the rules by Mr. Burlski, seconded by Mr. Boyden. This is a roll call vote. Mr. Burlski?
Yes.
Mr. Bentley is excused. Mr. Boyden? Ms. Coombs excused. Mr. Stock?
Yes.
Mr. Harden?
Yes.
Mr. Harden's excused. Mr. Hyder?
Yeah.
Ms. Holder's excused. Ms. Jones?
No.
Mr. Newell?
Yes.
Mr. Foley?
No.
Ms. Presley?
No.
Ms. Price?
Yes.
Mr. Van Dee?
Yes.
Mr. Wagner?
No.
Mr. Whitney?
Yes.
The rules are suspended with a weighted vote of 26,265. We have an item on your desk. We will be calling that agenda item number 49. On motion of Mr. Harbin, award contract, authorized agreement one group for property risk assessment, compliance training, employee exposure assessment, and safety education services, county attorney.
Second.
Discussion. Sure.
Just give a little background here so everybody understands, and I do apologize for the fact that this has come in at the last minute. We don't, normally want to work with these sort of resolutions, but we just got the contract in today. And this is to catch up on some critical compliance training that is needed across our county government that has been lacking due to the fact that we don't have a dedicated safety officer, which we're working on correcting. We've been working with one group to try to get a proposal together to help with that, but you'll also notice in the service proposal that there's some other critical items that this package will help us address. We'll do a hazard assessment survey, which is important for part of our, just overall management and maintenance of the various buildings. There'll be some mandatory safety management education. This is particularly for department heads to know how they're supposed to work in a safety capacity. A lot of this is to set the groundwork that's needed now, so as we bring a safety officer on board in the future, they will be able to hit the ground running with a county government that's well on its way to moving forward. The last thing I'll put to note is Project 4. This does not address the need for us to do an audit of code compliance, but there is another requirement for reporting on COPE, and we need that for all of our buildings that we manage. And so we're just trying to get caught back up and get ahead with these items. So this is the proposal that's put forward. They have, as you'll see in the service agreement, agreed to do payments on a quarterly basis. So while the resolution in front of you is for a 2-year term for a total of $58,000, they are okay with moving forward on the quarterly payment. And I will refer you back to the last resolution that we voted on this evening, which was to hold back funds from the county attorney's department in the level of $18,000 that weren't spent to do this work. In 2018, we have a chunk of this for 2019 already paid for by those $18,000 that we've held back. So there is a bit of a delta there that we'll need to come up with, but these are important compliance trainings and reportings that we have to get done. We don't want to continue to be behind like we saw today with our code compliance.
Is this put out by RFP?
This was not put out by RFP because it is professional services. It is not required per our rules of procurement. We did have a long discussion about that just to make sure we were all safe with the county attorney and the county administrator.
Okay, I have nowhere near enough time to read through this. I can't vote yes on this tonight.
So you're saying 2-year contract, 58,000, and we just talked about the 18,000, so it leaves 40,000. Where is that money coming from?
That's over 2 years.
Right? So 20,000 then for next year.
So there will be 29,000 next year that we'll have to budget for in the buildings and grounds budget or the safety office budget to make sure that those funds are covered. But we're only paying on a quarterly basis, so we're not really dipping into the 2020 yet.
So, but where is this money? What line is that coming out of? Maybe you don't know.
The longer we don't have a safety officer, the more money we already have to pay for this is already budgeted in 2019.
Right.
How far are we away from getting a safety officer? I believe.
We in buildings and grounds approved the posting of the job just this month. So we've only, I believe, had one application even come in the door, so we're not to the point of really having a pool for us to start the interview process on. So we could be a couple months away, and these reports and these trainings are mandated that we have to move forward on. That's why we're trying to bring it forward as quickly as possible.
But one of the reports is actually due by the end of this month.
Regardless of whether I would have had a yes or a no vote on this, I am not going to vote on something 14 pages long that I do not have time to read. So my vote will be no, and I ask that these last minute things that don't seem like last minute things, especially when they're 14 pages long,
contract. Here we are, 8:30, no one's looked at this, no one's talked about it. I can't support the last minute part of this, I have no idea what to vote on.
Yes, sir.
I think this is so long overdue that if voters are being counted. The only way I would vote yes for this though is if we would organize some sort of risk management committee that these people would report to. They're gonna find a lot of things wrong. And it's gonna take some correcting, and it's gonna take some money to do the correcting, but it is long overdue.
Couldn't that person come from, couldn't they be part of the building and grounds?
Buildings and grounds we have.
Yeah, we solved that problem.
We could address that. I mean, what has occurred is, Mr. Harper, this has been going on for a while, it's been ongoing behind the scenes. Unfortunately, it did come to fruition today. And I would agree with you, generally, this all would have been submitted. We've been having meetings, and we would have sent this out like I always do. I was gone for the last 2 weeks. They were trying to schedule the meeting around my availability, so the individual was here today. We weren't really sure where it was headed. As you saw in an email, maybe you haven't all saw your email, but we have been notified by the state that we aren't in compliance. And we have some steps we need to take fairly rapidly to address state concerns with the compliance of our buildings. And this, I mean, I'm okay if it gets stalled, I guess, and wait till February. What I will tell you though, this is another example of exactly what happened at the jail, where it was asked, what was the plan? I mean, the plan's been told to the legislature for years, but until it fails, that's when the legislature acts. And I mean that poorly because we have a lot of things. Safety. We've got a ton of safety concerns here. We haven't addressed them. We're trying ad hoc, just like we do everything here. We piecemeal people to try and fix a problem. We have a disaster. Our finance office, we kept trying to figure out a person all year long to come in and do an AUD. Our 2017 AUD isn't even done, and a month from now, our 2018 AUD is done because we kept saying, we'll figure this out, we'll find somebody, and I get why we do that. I'm okay if we pause it, but I appreciate Mr. Harbin and Ms. Howe's work to try and get something here, because Mr. Wagner's right, I'll go right to you, but we have serious problems that needs, this stuff is critically needed to be done.
I suggest we take a 10-minute recess to read this. I don't think we can wait another month. We have problems.
Ms. Price, sir.
I don't know the details any more than anybody else here except maybe Bo and Karen. However, I do wholeheartedly agree with the concept. I think it's important. I would support it tonight. You know, I think we need to move on.
It's important to me. It's a small input.
Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor, we'll do a roll call, because I can tell us. We'll do a roll call.
Mr. Brillski.
Yes.
Ms. Bentley is excused. Mr. Boyd.
Yes.
Ms. Coons is excused. Mr. Stock.
Yes.
Mr. Harbin.
Yes.
Mr. Harbin is excused. Mr. Hyder.
No.
Ms. Homer is excused. Ms. Jones.
No.
Mr. Newell.
Yes.
Mr. Foley.
No.
Ms. Preston.
No.
Ms. Price.
Yes.
Mr. Van Dee.
Yes. Yes.
Mr. Wagner.
Yes.
Mr. Whitney.
Yes.
Motion fails with a weighted vote of 22,988.
I'll ask you to check that.
Because of all the absentees, Mike,
I thought we had 9 yeses though.
Excuse me, Mr. Brillski voted yes.
I was going to say, there's some people that voted to suspend.
My apologies. We'll do that again. Mr. Brillski, yes. Mr. Bentley is excused. Mr. Boyden, yes. Ms. Coons is excused. Mr. Stock is yes. Mr. Harbin, yes. Mr. Harbin excused. Mr. Hyder, no. Ms. Homer is excused. Ms. Jones, no. Mr. Newell, yes. Mr. Foley, no. Ms. Preston, no. Ms. Price, yes. Mr. Van Dee, yes. Mr. Wagner, yes. Mr. Whitney, yes, with the correction of Mr. Brillski $25,807. My apologies. Thank you.
Just quickly, I would provide a report to this body in February as to where we get to, so that the concerns that were raised about how it's gonna get spent, where the money's going, all those sorts of things, I will definitely take your concerns into account. This will not be normal practice coming out of buildings and grounds, I promise going forward. Thank you for moving this forward.
All right, before we wrap up, Ms. Howe has one announcement, a quick one, we do need to apprise the legislature of. There is the possibility we're gonna have to have a special meeting, and she'll explain why. Annette, we need an executive session quick?
Yes.
All right, make this quick.
So the announcement is, I don't know if any of you have been following it, but the Assembly had passed a bill to allow furloughed federal employees to have an extension for time to pay their real property taxes. It went to the Senate made an amendment to it, so it's been sent back to the Assembly. But we anticipate, the news that we're getting is that we anticipate those bills are gonna be reconciled and the governor is going to sign them. Because tax bills are due by the 31st of this month, I may be coming to you because it only is allowed to the employees if the municipality approves a local resolution adopting the statutory language. So, and we've already had 2 towns that have indicated that they are going to want to pass it, and if the county doesn't, when they collect the bill, it would be the county portion collectible by the 31st, and if not, with penalty and interest, and the town portion being deferred. So that's why I'm saying I'm following it. I was hoping that it was going to have passed by today, so we have something to tell you. The governor has not, it's not passed, the governor hasn't signed it yet, but it's anticipated that it's going to happen relatively quickly, and it will be something with a time issue.
Mr. Harvick.
So given that there's a NICET conference that a number of us will be attending next week, when would be penciling this onto the calendar so that we can all kind of plan on it to make sure that we're here? This is an important issue we need to vote on.
Will you be back Thursday or no?
I will be back Wednesday. I'm not attending that last day, but I know
If we need to
his
do
house.
this for Thursday work, next Thursday, it would be quick. Okay. And it won't take long. We can do whatever, I mean, we can do whatever, we can do it first thing in the morning, we can do it in the evening, whatever's best, it's just gonna be a quick.
I'll be gone during the day, I would request it in the evening.
Okay.
Can we do it early, like 4 or 5 o'clock, though?
Would that work,
Everyone's
Mr. Ryan?
involved?
That wouldn't work for me, I'm have some training and going to.
Okay.
I'll be gone.
Tell you what, we'll schedule a meeting, hopefully we get enough of us here. I think it would be a pretty easy one as long as 9 of us here.
For this,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
please.
I agree, yep. Okay, quick motion to go in executive session, as Barbara has an item.
Again, this is to talk about the employment history of a specific individual. Have a motion?
Second, or motion?